Hi everyone, Brett from Metropole here. Well, today I'm going to talk about how to find certainty in an uncertain market, and certainly there's a lot of uncertainty around at the moment. Every year there's a reason or two to sit on your hands and not to invest, but this year there seems to be about 100 reasons. There's always the Trump circus and those kinds of things, and then locally closer to home we've got an election in about a week's time. There's all that uncertainty around what Labor's going to do with negative gearing, retirement taxes, climate taxes, you name it. So how do we provide some certainty when everyone wants to sit on their hands and wait and see how things turn out? Because I believe there's still people out there that want to invest. So I think there's two things that you could do. The first thing I think you need to do is actually take the volatility out of your investment. And to do that, you need to take the short-term people out of the equation, and that's the investors. You need to find areas with a high owner-occupier percentage. Investors are looking for the short term, the flips, the quick cash flow, the quick equity gain. And as a result, markets can be very volatile because of that. But if you're buying in areas where 80% or so of the people in that location are focused on longer term, their homes, they're not going to be worried about what happens with Labor and what happens with Trump in the next year or two, because they're going to be there for the next 10 or 15 years. So there's actually some certainty there, and there's going to be significantly less volatility in the bad times. And in the good times, people are prepared to make more to get into these areas. So my first tip is avoid investors. Get into areas with a high owner-occupier percentage. My next tip is land is king. I'm sure if you looked at your rates recently, and especially in Queensland, your rates have gone up. And over the last 10 or 20 years, that would continue to be the case. Land's going to continue to increase in value, especially in areas where there's short supply. So my next tip is to find an asset as close to land value as possible. And I know here in Brisbane, we're looking for opportunities with a land to asset ratio of around 70 to 80%. I know just recently, one of the guys bought a property for a client for $521,000, a 3-bedroom house, and a block of dirt 3 or 4 doors up in the next street just sold for $500,000. That's a $21,000 house we just bought for a client, because majority of that purchase is in the land, and the land's not going to go backwards. Identical location and same size block. If anything else was slightly elevated, which was better. So that's my tip, guys. If you're looking for certainty in an uncertain market, take out the volatility by avoiding areas with investors. And the next thing is buy your property with a high portion of land content, and you won't go wrong. Thanks for listening.